Welcome back to the Steve and Mark Discuss podcast, where Steve surgically extracts items from the media and we dissect them during the course of the next 15 minutes or so. Okay, so over to Steve.
Hi, people. Second time trying this. Let's see what happens. Last 2 days has been really busy for the news. We've had the debates, the primary debates in the US for the Republican Party. And we've had Prigozhin's aeroplane falling out of the sky. He was the leader of the Wagner Group. And also the last 2 days has been the BRICS meetings. Now the Western media hasn't really covered the BRICS meetings all that much, which in itself I thought interesting. On the first day of the BRICS meeting, they were talking about having a common currency in Africa and having a different currency for the BRICS nations. And on the second day, yesterday, they were on about expansion of the BRICS nations. And so it was agreed that Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia would join the BRICS. This was confirmed yesterday. Which probably means the end of the petrodollar, because we're talking about Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. I know that the other day, India had bought 1 million barrels of oil. I think it's from Saudi Arabia, and they paid for the oil in rupees, Indian rupees. And then during our conversations during the week, yes, people, Mark and I do speak to each other during the week.
My secret there, yeah.
You brought up a point that I thought was really interesting, and that was about United States foreign aid and foreign aid in general from the Western nations being reduced, going to China. And I believe that the reason why that was happening it was political, more political in general. Forget about the BRICS. It was just something in general, because the US and China have gone to loggerheads about certain things. But in the BRICS meetings, there were 40 nations that joined to take part in the BRICS meeting. A lot of them from Africa. And I thought, after seeing the point that you made, which was important, it was a really important point, I thought to myself, I don't think this reduction of foreign aid is going to be limited to China. I think any African country that wants to join BRICS is going to, the West are going to say, well, you know, don't look at us for help. You're wanting to go to the BRICS organization. Let them help you. No? You had India and their landing on the moon with their probe.
Yeah.
Saying, and the leader of India saying, now we're a what is it? We're a super nation.
Yeah.
You know, of space. And India receives an awful lot of money from the West for humanitarian aid. And I'm sure that that is going to be reduced. I think all the BRICS nations that receive funding from the West, from the US, from the UK, from Europe, they need to factor in the fact that this money is going to dry up, and basically that's the point I'm trying to make in this.
Yeah. Now, I did some research about India. Yeah, funny enough, I did it live. We were discussing it with a student, and I thought, hang on, yeah, something in the back of my mind. And I actually did some research. Now, there's more. It's not actually direct aid now for humanitarian. That's been falling out for many years, given the British and close working relationship with India. In recent years, it has been more about research, development, other things. Yeah, not direct aid to reduce poverty. So it could be actually some British know-how that has actually helped the Indians get to where they've got to. I don't know. I'm just speculating with that, people, by the way. I don't know. I just did a quick Google and had a quick look and read a couple of things. I think there's actually, if you want to go into depth, the British government does actually specify the aid they give to India. So if anyone wants to drill down a bit deeper into that, it's available quite openly on the British site. I'll put the link in down below on this one. So yeah, I mean, it makes more sense rather than give direct aid, as the saying goes, give a man a fish and a eat for a day. Teach a man to fish and a eat for a lifetime. Now, my overall thinking about the BRICS is this. We live in Brazil, but Steve and myself thinking, well, we don't care when money comes to get into our pocket, as long as it gets there. It's what Brazil will sell out, and whatever happens, we either sell it. The likes of Europe don't give money to Brazil, for instance, or other countries without seeing some return. There has to be a deal somewhere, which is the case, the Indian model, hopefully. Aid in China has been decreasing over many years, and it's recognized that, it's still going there. And this is a bit weird. And sometimes there's things happening with international relations that we just could not understand. Watch any past episode of Yes Minister to see that, which is now a documentary, which would explain that. It's a very, very strange thing, this foreign aid. What does it go? Where does it go? I mean, our president in Brazil has been talking about the Amazon as well. International cooperation for preservation of the Amazon. Again, even within Brazil, the Amazon is a hot topic of discussion, how to best manage it. There's lots of business interest up there. It is a gold mine for Brazil. Again, with Steve and myself, we like to see money come into Brazil because it benefits us. And that is a simple fact. We don't want to see the destruction of the Amazon. How we best manage it. The president here has been asking for money from other nations to be part of the committee to best manage it. The value of the Amazon, from what I understand, I'm going to something a bit different here. I'll get back to the BRICS in a minute. Of the Amazon being 20% of oxygen around the world is a bit overplayed.
Right.
Maybe the absorption of carbon dioxide is important as well. But when you consider how many forested areas have disappeared around the world, I think Brazil does quite well in maintaining it. But I'm not a scientist. I'm not anyone there. I just look at what I see as base figures or base overviews. Use my own initiative. So get back. But my own personal view is rival to the dollar. The dollar's not quite finished yet. You can't suddenly have a void of one currency's disappearing and another one suddenly appearing from somewhere. There's going to be a transition at some point. China and the US have been doing this for many years. The US economy going up, the Chinese one going down. The last time that happened, as far as I know, in history of the world generally, in modern world, things have happened in the past, in ancient world, the Greek, Roman, and other things coming into play, Europe then, overall Europe, was against Britain and the US. And again, because Britain and the US had close relationships, it was kind of accepted. China and the US don't have a close relationship. China probably does need these other countries to join it in the BRICS. Yeah, for prestige as much as anything else. We're looking now at more Brazil agreeing more with China on things, moving away from its European base. That's always been a bit more traditional.
They say that the BRICS nations are the it's the southern hemisphere,
Well, yeah.
and they say that, you know, all the natural resources are in these BRICS nations, you know, that have yet to be tapped,
yeah,
by the modern world, the Western world.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that you sprung on me, which was the sale of corn.
Yeah.
From Brazil.
Yeah.
Brazil is a massive place.
Yeah.
And apparently the sale of corn is projected that it's going to surpass the sale of corn of the US for the world markets.
Yeah, that was an
Argentina.
Yeah.
Argentina the workers in Argentina are now refusing to accept the peso as currency for their wages because it's lost so much of its buying power. And so Argentina's in a bit of a yeah, with the economy. And I was contemplating this this morning, and I thought, how can Argentina come out of this? It could do it with a bit of help from Brazil, investing, because Argentina is also not a very small country.
No,
right? And so if Argentina's got anything, just like Brazil, it's got land. And so Argentina can grow itself out of poverty by if Brazil helps it out investing in the agriculture, then a good possibility that Argentina can grow itself out of it, you know. And also, of course, the politicians have got to behave themselves.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, I did. There was a brief report, and I can't remember what publication it was, but said, you know, Argentina does have to turn its back on the reliance of the dollar and look to the big neighbor next door, us. We might not sit comfortably with the Argentinians or even some Brazilians.
Yeah. Well, it's the same as the English and the Irish, or the French and the
yeah. I mean, it's a bit of a friendly rivalry. Yeah, I mean, we're British. What's our rivalry with the Argentinians? Yeah, it dates back a lot longer than 1982, actually. It is it's always an interesting question. These countries coming together, maybe it's good that lesser countries, or what I've seen lesser countries around the world that had potential, all do join together with a mutual understanding, which doesn't appear to be coming from the traditional places like the US. US involvement in Latin America has never really had a good record. Let's be honest about it. European involvement in Latin America has never really been brilliant, or it's always been traditional. Our links, I mean, yeah, Brazil has links obviously with Portugal, and in more recent time, and again, obviously, most of Latin America. I mean, Brazil was more influential, more powerful than the mother country. Portugal is now, and yeah, Brazilians quite happily remind the Portuguese of that on every opportunity. But yeah, banter aside, I mean, there has been British involvement in South America as well, and that's not always gone very, very well. And in more recent times, how does Europe really benefit us in South America? We do probably have more in common with other BRIC countries. We've probably got more in common, if I dare say it, with Russia than we do with the rest of Europe. And
Yeah.
this is two Europeans agreeing on this, living here.
Yeah.
Disregards what's happening outside. Yeah, China is going to be the big boy, potentially, if it can hold its own economy up internally. China does need probably the BRICS, and the BRICS do need the BRICS. Proposed BRICS do need China.
Well, China has already been investing heavily in Africa, in the African nations, and the tendency is that the African nations are going to join the BRICS anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
but it all needs to be done with a level head, and like I said, you know, the politicians are going to have to behave themselves, because if you want corrupt politicians, you know, I think the vast majority of Africa, you know, they got their own way of thinking there, and they need to.
Yeah, don't need to look to Africa
behave
for
themselves.
that either.
Yeah.
I mean,
more obvious there.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with Xi. Apparently, he refused to give an address the other day. Whether he's not happy about something, or maybe he's waiting to see what happens with people around him, which is probably the way I would play it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's your local friendly dictator. He's not going to dive in there and do everything. He'll see how he can benefit. Yeah, I mean, the world is it. Economics, like anything else, evolves. It's an evolution. It always has done. This is human nature. This is how human beings have done it. Hopefully, this is for good. Okay, you could have two rival blocks. Maybe that might not be such a bad thing. As Steve just pointed out, or we have pointed out, maybe taking dependency from Europe across things will allow Europeans and the other world to not have to worry about supporting lesser countries, who are then will probably have a mutual agreement to support themselves. I know it's an idealistic world. It was part of the idea.
I think that would create an awful lot of inflation, fast inflation.
Well, yeah. I mean,
if all of a sudden, the US decide not to hand over $2 or $3 billion to a suffering nation, all of a sudden the United States has got an extra $2 to $3 billion on the books, which they need to get rid of. You know, it needs to come into the system to be spent and all this. And as you know, if you got more money in the system,
I would suggest look at the European economy. That could be swallowed up quite easily somewhere else. Possibly the UK could become a star on the flag, which I'm not totally uncomfortable with, to be quite honest. Having come from there, I can see benefits of it. We're virtually that anyway sometimes.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, Trump actually wanted it in some way. I mentioned names. From what I understood, what I read, he loved it. He loved the idea of closer union. I'm not sure what the Biden administration thinks of the UK. I've never been sure what Biden thinks of the UK.
Sure what Biden thinks.
Well,
did I say that?
I think it's kind of been accepted even amongst his own kin. Okay, he was elected as the president of the US by the people there, so.